Spirituality is your own personal relationship with divine guidance. So whether you're skeptic or there's any type of thing that's bigger than us, it doesn't matter because it will still work for you or not work for you. Just like you don't have to believe in Feng Shui, it's still there. It's like the air you breathe, you can't see it. But what if it's not? But if it's not there, you're gonna know.
You're gonna know quick.
So there's this invisible. I get goosebumps one time. So there's like these invisible forces that are around us, and what has been lost is how we connect into that.
Have you ever noticed a commercial location in your community that no matter what business goes in there, it fails? Business after business. No matter what type of business it is, continually people are moving in, moving out, businesses close one right after another at this location. But yet, there is a location just down the street that continues to prosper and grow, and people are lined around the sidewalk to get in there. And you wonder why. How could those two be so different when they're so close? If you want the answers to these questions, listen to today's podcast with Amy Theisen, Infinity Life Design. She's a Feng Shui expert, and she's going to be teaching us some of her amazing principles about how to get ahead in the business world community using Feng Shui. My name's Travis Sims, and I am the founder and CEO of AGC Accelerated Global Connections, and this is the AGC Experience.
Today's broadcast was brought to you by Beyond Design, where they work to provide businesses with affordable and individualized marketing through quality design and strategic implementation on online media production, print advertising, events, and public relations marketing. You can find Holly Brunette and her team at Beyond Design at graphicbeyonddesign.com. And note that anytime you see the AGC logo at one of our events on a sign, print, or social media post, you will know that Holly and her team at Beyond Design took great care of us.
Today's podcast is with a good friend of mine. I'm so excited to sit down with you. I've actually known you for probably almost 4 years. You've been on stage at AGC and twice now, and I'm so excited to have you. It's Amy Theisen with Infinity Life Design. You're one of my closest advisors, and so it's so fun to do this podcast with you so our listeners can really learn more about you and what you do and why you do it. Amy, introduce yourself, tell us who you are, what you do, and a little bit about yourself.
Thanks, Travis. So I'm Amy Theisen, and my company is Infinity Life Design, like you said. I am a Chinese metaphysics practitioner, and most people go, what the heck is that? I basically work with Feng Shui, destiny analysis, and strategic date selection. And when I say Feng Shui, most people might have had some insight into that, more the westernized version of placing objects around their house. So you might walk into a Chinese restaurant and see the waving cat next to the cash register, or like all of the Chinese icons threw up in that restaurant. That's not really what I do. My work is very invisible, as you know.
Yeah.
But I'm working with the energy around us is really what I'm looking at. The personal, and then the environmental, and even the spiritual energy that we all have access to.
It's such a unique profession. I mean, we're in the networking world, and AGC is a networking community, and you meet a lot of realtors and financial advisors and mortgage and all these industries. And to find someone that says, I do Feng Shui. And I'm curious, and I know a little bit of this, but our listeners don't. How did you pick such a unique profession? What led up to it? And even maybe what did you do before that got you here to this point? Because you could be anything in life,
right,
and you chose this. How did you get here?
Sometimes I don't think I chose it. I think it chose me, number one. So I graduated from the University of Minnesota with a degree in microbiology and a minor in speech communication, two opposite ends of the spectrum, one science, one more liberal arts. And I worked at the Bell Museum of Natural History. I ran their distance education program, so I was using the science component of that. And I did a lot of the marketing. I had to raise my own money, so a lot of grant writing and philanthropy, talking with those individuals. And what happened is my husband and I moved further out west. So my commute each day to the University of Minnesota was 45 minutes on a good day, 2.5 hours on a bad. And it got to be a lot on the road. And I started thinking, I kind of want to go into business for myself. Didn't know I had that entrepreneurial streak in me. My dad had his own business, so I kind of grew up in that environment. But he didn't encourage us to go out on our own. And so when we moved out west, I was looking for something different, and I went into a network marketing business model. I left the university role, left the programs in very good shape, and the network marketing world opened my eyes to a different way of thinking. And my husband is very much into self-improvement, and I had trained hunting dogs for a summer, and the owner of that location, that hunting training center, gave me a self-development CD to listen to when I was driving home. Yeah. So I had a little introduction to that. Network marketing opened that even further, and I have no idea where this came from. Around the holiday time, so around this time of year in 2003, I believe it was, I said to my husband, I'm interested in Feng Shui. And like I said, I have no idea where that came from, so he bought me 4 books for Christmas.
Oh, wow.
And so those 4 books, I read them, 2 of them, I'm like, there's no way they took over China with these techniques. Didn't make sense to me. But these 2 are interesting. Yeah. And then what happened, I believe in serendipity. My husband went and signed up for a week-long retreat about Feng Shui that was being held in Minnesota. And he listened to the first conference call. And first of all, I went, what are you doing? Yeah. He goes, well, I don't know. It sounded interesting. He listened to the first conference call and he said, this is way more than I want to know. Do you want to go in my place? And so that started me down the rabbit hole of studying this technique. And then after that seminar, I started working with the instructor who was from California, became her business partner. There was a fallout. And I thought to myself, this isn't what I want to do because of the type of people I was meeting. But again, fate stepped in, and Joey Yap, who's now my teacher, happened to be in Toronto about 2 months after that happened. And I had another colleague say, Amy, you need to check into him. So I thought, well, Toronto's a quick, easy flight from Minneapolis. Flew over there, sat down with Joey, asked him some questions, had him read my own destiny chart, if this is the path I should be on. He said, absolutely, you could build a very nice business. You'd be very good at it. So I thought, okay, I'll start studying with Joey. And so that has taken me to places such as Malaysia, Singapore, and China on the journey of becoming a metaphysics practitioner. So it's not just looking at your home and your business and how that's influencing you, okay, but it's looking at how, when you were brought into this world, what are your opportunities, what are your challenges ingrained in you, and then how you can make the choices based on what's going to help you live at the highest level.
I like how you said, I think it found me. It's fun that your husband helped introduce you to Feng Shui. That's so cool. That leads me to a few things. So first of all, now we know you're married. How long have you been married?
25 years.
25 years. Oh my gosh. And I know you have children, but tell us about your family.
So I have 3 kids. My daughter is 24. She lives down in Phoenix, Arizona. And then I have 2 sons, 19 and 20. Both of them are still in college.
Wow. So you're now empty nester.
Yes. And see the smile on my face.
Oh, yes.
It's great to have them come home, but it's also, I always have the philosophy, you raise your kids to fly away.
Oh, that's great. I like that. Yes. And I heard you say you went to college here in Minnesota. Uh-huh. Have you always been a Minnesota girl?
My college journey was very interesting. And if I had known then what I know now about my own personal destiny chart, I would have understood myself a little better. I started, my freshman year was at Gustavus, which is a private liberal arts college and just outside of Mankato in St. Peter. Was there for a year. I was studying elementary education. Halfway through the year, I switched to broadcast journalism. My sophomore year was down at the University of Texas in Austin.
Okay.
Halfway through the year at UT, I switched to pre-vet med.
Had a few career paths mine there.
Yep. Then I came back up to the University of Minnesota for my junior year, but I lost a lot of credits. A lot of credits didn't transfer. So I spent 4 years on the pre-vet med track at the U of M. Was so close to that communication minor, so I finished that as well. And I am 2 credits shy of a chemistry minor.
Wow, that's interesting path.
Yes, 6 years in college. So if you have questions about Northern University, Southern University, private liberal arts colleges, I can share that with you.
I'm curious, I'm sure our listeners are as well. When someone is thinking about what leads them to go, I need someone that does feng shui. I mean, because if I'm going to sell a house, I know I need a realtor. But you may not always know that, hey, this is the answer for me. So how do they know?
Right. So typically people come to me when they have a change going on, where they're a little bit frustrated with how things are going in their life. They're either thinking about switching careers, they're thinking about selling their house, moving, something like that.
Okay.
I usually get them in a transition.
Yeah, change is happening.
Right.
Yeah.
So I always have to look at a destiny chart. And then we can look at the feng shui. Think of it as going to a doctor and them just giving you a prescription without asking you any questions, without seeing what's going on. The BaZi chart tells me what's going on, so that I can make the changes in the house to either soften the negativity or build up the success component so that they can get down out of that downward spiral or continue the upward spiral. So usually women are the first ones to reach out to me because they're a little more sensitive to energy. And another way I like to explain it is everyone can think of that one location, whether it's a business or a house, that no matter what business goes in there or who moves in, it's constantly either closing or they're moving in or out. So the easiest is a restaurant. Whatever restaurant goes in, they're always closed within 2 to 5 years.
I've seen locations like that, and you always wonder, why is it?
Mm-hmm.
And it's right on the path or on the street to another location that's really profitable and successful, and it's always there, and you wonder why nothing can stay there.
So when I first started my career, I challenged myself to look at some of those locations and figure out why. And 99% of the times I could say exactly what needed to be done to those buildings to turn around. I also like to look at new developments that are going in or new restaurants that are being created. And I'll look at the site and say, well, if they did this and this, it would open up to prosperity. There was a restaurant that was going in right on 394 corridor. One had closed, another was going in, backed by a really prominent, successful restaurateur. And I had said when the first restaurant closed, I said, all they need to do is switch where the entrance is and close this off over here. And that's exactly what he did. And that restaurant is hugely successful 10, 15 years later.
Anyone in change, life transition, and that could be personal, getting married, divorced, having kids, a big decision making that's happening, moving. In business, if you're going to open a business, you're going to launch a new product or a new service or develop a new team or open a new location, all that would be good for you.
Right, absolutely would be fantastic for me.
Okay.
Usually people want to know what decision they can make. I can't tell you yet. Yes, absolutely make that decision. I can tell you what the outcome could be, and if you want that outcome, then you can go for it. If you don't like the outcome, I still have people that go for it. And then they come back to me 6 months later, and I'll say, now I told you that this is what the challenge was going to be. Yes, I know. Oh. Now let's see how we can get you the results that you want.
So what our listeners probably don't know is I consulted you before starting AGC.
Yes.
I'm like, hey, I have this vision for what I want to do. This is where I'm headed with it. What are your thoughts and what do you think? And we spent a lot of time together just kind of sounding that out. So I was member number 1 for AGC and member number 2 right here in the room. I can't tell the audience enough how many times that I reach out to Amy and say, hey, thinking about this, or I'm doing this, and I need a sounding board. I need someone saying, hey, Travis, that's a good decision, but you might want to wait till this date because it's a better day for you. Yeah. And that leads me to, because you referenced to a destiny chart, and you've said that probably 3 times so far in this interview. Right. For those of us that have no idea what a destiny chart is, tell us, what is that? How does that work?
So everyone knows that when you go into a Chinese restaurant, they have the little paper placemats on the table, and you're like, oh, I'm going to find out what my animal is. So you say, oh, I'm a tiger, or I'm a monkey, or I'm a rabbit. Okay. So that is the year you were born. There's also an animal that influences your month, your day, and your hour. And if we wanted to, we could take it to the minute, but I usually don't. So a destiny chart puts together all of those 4 components: the year you were born, the month you were born, the day you were born, and the hour you were born. And it tells me a story. So it's maybe the easiest would be, it's kind of like China or Western astrology, but it's different. So I've had clients that have had a Western astrology reading done. But what I'm able to do is not just tell them about themselves, but how to live at a higher level by the choices that they make. So that's what it is. Okay. It's your story. Kind of if you're playing cards, it's the hand that you were dealt. And so now we're going to teach you how to play the cards in your hand to live at the level you want.
The people that are seeking you, we know, are life changes and big decision making. How did they go, okay, they found you how? Or someone, is it referrals that you normally bring you business? Mm-hmm. Okay.
It's typically referrals. So someone will come to me, we'll go through whatever it is they ask me to do for them. They have a good experience. Things that I'm telling them are starting to change for the better. They tell a friend and they tell a friend, and all of a sudden I have not just them as the client, but I have people around them as clients too.
I use you as a way, if I were to describe this, I would say it's to help me get from good to great.
Yes.
Or from great to excellent.
Yes.
That little extra margin, that little extra degree of something that's going to get me to the next level professionally.
Right.
And I don't know, do you see a lot of that in your
That's clients? Absolutely how clients that have used me for years, that's exactly what they're doing. So, for example, 2020 is just around the corner.
Yes.
So I'm starting to prepare for all of my clients, all of their yearly updates. Yeah. And I have a seminar coming up on December 13th where they'll come in, everyone gets their destiny chart, and they'll get to see what does 2020 look like for them? Yeah. How can they make the right choices for the year? It's like when you were asking me about AGC, you said, okay, I want to launch it in January. I said, well, let's wait till February because that's when your year changes. And there were some other things going on in your chart. That's why we wanted to wait until 2019 so that we wouldn't have any issues a little bit further into the year. So I'm showing them how they can use the year to best effect, because if it's a year they just need to build on what they've started, it's kind of the lay low and focus there. Or is it the year you get out there, you start a podcast, you get a YouTube channel, you open up a new market? Is that the type of year that they're going to have so that they can start planning to make it a successful year?
I'm glad you mentioned the seminar, the workshop. You have a multitude of ways that you work with people. You do that one-to-one. You have workshops available. Tell us a little bit more about how, if one of our listeners is going, oh my gosh, I never considered Feng Shui, and some of the things that you're sharing with us makes total sense, or I would like to get from good to great, or I would like that little extra margin of success, realizes that maybe dates might play or locations might play a part in that. How would they go about working with you? Or are you working with them and me?
Oftentimes the first touch point is that summit, is what I call it, the yearly summit. My clientele will bring in visitors and guests with them and say, you got to come. It is overwhelming when it's your first time. I will just tell you that, because I'm sharing information for people who've been with me for 10 years and then those who are new. So it is high level, but you do glean a lot of information from there. Another step is to have me do a life analysis with that destiny chart. ends up being about 30 pages, and it's a book about you.
Okay.
It's and that's what I tell people. This is all about you. All the information in here is what challenges you have, where your opportunities are, where you should focus your talents, how you can have more money brought into your life, better relationships, and better health. That is a good starting point for a lot of people too, because I will give some Feng Shui advice in there as well. I do have people that come to me just for the Feng Shui upgrade of their home or their office. Hey, come in. I think there's something going on here. My relationship ever since we moved in here been going downhill, and I need some help. So there's multiple touch points. Oftentimes it's a conversation because I need to know what it is that's going on with you before I can say, okay, we need to do this or we need to do that. And then I have my elite clients, which I consult with them on a monthly basis. So they've been to the summit, they've had their 30-page book about them done. And then every month I'm preparing insights for how they can use that month to the best effect. And then they have the date selection calendar that they can use every single day to make the decisions and tap into that universal positive energy.
I have to ask this question. It's a controversial question, and it's because I'm sure you have this come up. I think that we have pretty open-minded, welcoming philosophy inside AGC, but have to run into the roadblock of, oh, wait a minute, spirituality and how do you explain what it is you do to someone who is a skeptic?
Yep. A lot of times I get the religion question.
Yes.
How does this go against
you
my
hear
religion?
me tiptoeing around it.
Yeah. Just let's
thank
right
you.
out there.
Thank you.
I do get that question. How does this go with my religion? I said, well, first of all, it's not religion. One of the things that happened when Feng Shui was brought to the U.S. from Asia is they brought the religious icons with it. So everyone assimilates or assumes that you got to have your Buddhas and your Kuan Yins and all of those type of things. Nothing at all like that. In fact, when you see those over in China or Asia, they put the Buddha in a certain place because it draws everyone there. Well, Feng Shui-wise, that activates that room. So here, if you're looking at the religious icons we have, whether it's Jesus or Mary or St. Joseph or whoever, if that's something you have in your home, you would put that piece, that statue, in an area that you want people to go to activate it. So religion is something that you are being told how to do certain things, how to pray, how to worship, and it's got those guidelines. Spirituality is your own personal relationship with divine guidance. So whether you're skeptical or there's any type of thing that's bigger than us, it doesn't matter because it will still work for you or not work for you. Just like you don't have to believe in Feng Shui, it's still there. It's like the air you breathe, you can't see it.
It's there.
But what if it's not? But if it's not there, you're gonna know.
You're gonna know quick.
So there's this invisible. I get goosebumps. So there's like these invisible forces that are around us. And what has been lost is how we connect into that. So I say, if you believe that there is a divine being, God, or whatever you want to call it, and you believe he or she created the earth and us, don't you think that they were created to work together? So heaven, earth, man, and it creates the infinity symbol of the connection, which is why I named my company Infinity Life Design.
What a great explanation, because I'm certain there are people who are going, I don't know, especially with how would a coordinator work well with their religious choices that they're making in their lives and for their families and so on. And I love that it's like, you know what, you're free to choose however you want, and this is how that will work alongside what you're already doing.
Absolutely. In fact, I have quite a few very devout religious clients, and I've taught them how to use some of the techniques that I use, that I show them when they're in that church environment, and they're like, wow, my whole experience has been taken to the next level with that too.
I want to know now, how have you helped someone in some way, some big success story, or share, what is it you love about what you do? I mean, that's all going to be intertwined.
Oh, there's so many stories.
I bet there is.
And that is really what I'm all about. It's one of the reasons I love AGC is because I love to take people to that next level. I love to watch people succeed, and any role I can play in that, it brings me joy, which is what my life is all about. Is I'm here to experience joy.
Yeah.
And yeah, we have challenges. Everybody does, but ultimately it comes down to that. So a couple of things that come to mind pretty recently, had an attorney friend who's been a client of mine since the very beginning.
Mm-hmm.
And when I was working with him, I kept pointing out, I said, okay, you're going to have a career change in about 6 years.
Oh, wow.
The next year we get together. You're going to have a career change in about 5 years. He goes, you keep telling me this. I'm an attorney. Why would I get out of that position? Spent a lot of money, a lot of education, got a great practice. It was about 3 years out. He goes, I think I know what you're talking about. I said, okay. And so he started to share what he was thinking. And I was looking at his chart, and I said, that's an absolute perfect way to use your chart. Now, it involves him having to go back to school and getting a master's. But he was the perfect timing. It was going to take him 2 years. So by the time he started his schooling again, he had 2 years of that. And right when he made what I saw as the shift, he was in the perfect position to take full advantage of that. He's so happy every step of the way in that second career. He said, it's been so easy. I've loved everything about it. And so now he has switched careers from being an attorney. And he said he probably wouldn't have had the courage to do it had I not shown him that was going to happen and why. Another one comes to mind, AGC member. You're probably not going to be happy about this one. I was using it's called a Chi-Men technique. Mm-hmm. And she was struggling they wanted to move, and she was struggling about the timing. Yeah. And I saw it in the chart. I looked at all of her kids and her husband. I said, your husband's going to have the hardest time wanting to move. Your kids are going to be fine till such and such an age with your daughter. Then you need to be more stable. And she goes, okay, I've got everybody on board, but I just don't know when to do it. And so I positioned her it was a strategic magic hour is what I call them. It was at an AGC event. I just put her in the right side. I go, what do you want to know? And she said, I want to know this. I said, then ask for it. Do I have to do it out loud? I said, no. She asked for it. And she goes, oh my God, I just got goosebumps. And I said, me too. And within an hour and a half after the event was over, she was driving home and she got the phone call. And her landlord said, we're going to sell the house. Do you want to buy it? If you're not going to buy it, you need to be out. And it was 6 weeks. And she calls me and she goes, what? I go, there's your answer. You're moving in 6 weeks. So that is some of the things that have.
What I love about that story is how by this person asking those questions ahead of time, how it prepared them for that call. Yes. Could you imagine that call coming in yes. and not having that foresight? It could have sent this person into a tailspin, like, oh my gosh, what am I going to do next? And I'm unprepared and I don't know what to do. But she knew what she wanted to do. She knew where she wanted to go. And now it's like, I know the timing's right. Because not only did I get that advice or that guidance from you and I can see it in this chart, but now those things are starting to fall into place. Mm-hmm. You said confidence earlier. I'll just say as a client of yours that's exactly what that gives me. When I'm making a decision, something that could alter or change the path of my life, and I know I can do it with courage and I can do it with confidence because I have someone in my pocket that's going, yep, you're golden this way. Just keep going the way you're doing. Or Travis, hey, you might consider this or that. And you give me things to think about. It's been so valuable.
And I think that is one of the most, thank you for sharing that, because that is really a key at what I do, or what I do for my clients is when someone's new coming to me, they're usually very nervous and scared. Oh my gosh, I don't want to know.
Yeah.
I said, well, if you don't know, how can you prepare? Or if you don't know, how can you take advantage? Once you know, then you can, okay, I know this year might be a little challenging for me. So it's not the year. I have a client like that this was the year for her. She wanted to expand her business. She wanted to hire. She wanted to build a location. And I said, this isn't the right year. You can start looking for the location you want to build, but there's too many other challenges you'll have to be dealing with.
Yeah.
So I look at how her year has been going, and if she had chosen to take those big steps this year, it would have been really tough for her. So thanks for sharing that, because I think that's what I do, is I help people prepare. You no longer have to go into an unknown place without at least a flashlight to light up what's in the path ahead.
Yeah.
That's what I do.
That's a great analogy. The flashlight, to be able to see the path. That's fantastic. As we get ready to close out, I'd like to know, is there any special advice or wisdom that you could pass on to our listeners now? If they're in business or in sales, and probably a lot of our listeners are business owners, salespeople, entrepreneurs, CEOs, executives type people, what advice would you give them?
Well, we are just now starting to transition to 2020, so you're going to see some rocky things going on. The year for Chinese New Year is usually in January, but the year actually flips on February 4th. So I want you to start paying attention to what's going on around you right now. It'll give you some glimpses starting in November of what 2020 is going to look like for you. If you like what you see, or if you don't like what you see, I'd love to have you at the summit, so that you can get a better look at what your year might hold.
Well, that's fantastic. I want to, Amy, thank you for being a guest. It's just a privilege to sit down with you like this and share you with all of our listeners. If someone wants to find you after listening to this podcast or watching it, how do we find you?
So my Facebook page is facebook.com, and then it's Infinity Life Design. That's the same as my website. You can email me at amy@goteaminfinity.com. Those are the easiest ways to get a hold of me.
All right, awesome. And I'll look forward to hopefully seeing some of our listeners at the next workshop. Yeah. I'll be there, so I'm looking forward to it. Thank you again for being on the podcast. We appreciate it.
Thank you.
To our audience out there, thank you for listening. Thank you for watching. We appreciate you. Tell others, share this experience. This is the AGC Experience, a podcast sharing our members abroad with the listeners. It's all about focused on the members and making sure that they're getting business, they're having success, and we're getting your message out and helping more people discover you. So thank you.
This podcast was produced by Elation Studios. Go to www.elationstudios.co. That's www.elationstudios.co to learn more. Elation Studios. Discover your voice, clarify your vision, build your life.